She was finally ready to leave her husband, but before she could start over, Tawana McGowan was found shot outside of her home with her son as the only witness to the assailant as they ran away. Behind her smiles was a life that was unraveling. Tawana had stopped wearing her wedding ring, changed her name online, and told her friends that she was done because the fights were getting worse. The dog was found outside frozen to death, and days later, she was gone. Through witness statements in the now unredacted police report, we're going to piece together the truth about her marriage, her fears, and the secrets that she never got to escape. We're also going to talk to Kyle, Tawana's son, to get some more information and answers to some of the questions that you guys had from the first video. This is the follow-up story of Tawana McGowan, the woman who tried to leave but never got the chance to. Welcome to the True Crime Nurse, everybody. My name is Kat, and I'm a registered nurse who loves all things nursing and true crime. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell before you go. Now, before we get into this police report and interview with Kyle, if you haven't seen the first video, I highly recommend that you watch it before proceeding. I'm going to link it in the description box and in the cards, so go watch that video and then come back to this one so that you've got the full story. In case you forgot, when Kyle initially requested the police report to get his mom's case looked into again, he received it back fully redacted or blacked out. None of the information was legible. Since then, he's met with an investigator at Redford Police Department, and he was actually able to get it unredacted, and then he sent it to me. The first statement that I'm going to read is from the first responding officer on scene, and I'm going to be reading this portion verbatim. This is what he wrote. I was sent to the area of Arnold, south of Plymouth, for a lady who had just been shot. When I arrived, I was flagged down by a man who was pointing to 11372 Arnold. Standing next to him was a lady and a younger boy. He pointed to the front yard and said, "She's lying there on the southeast corner of the yard." A lady was lying on her back in the snow. She was next to the driveway where the car was parked. I approached and observed blood on her face. The blood and other material appeared to be coming out of her nose. She was not responsive and did not appear to have a pulse. Her left hand was up by the left side of her head. Her eyes were mostly closed, and her right eye appeared to be swollen. Her right hand was also up by her head and was holding a set of keys. RTFD, or Redford Township Fire Department, had already been called and was responding. The young boy was identified as the victim's son. He said he was in the house and his mother was outside by the car in the driveway. He heard her screaming, and when he came out, he found his mother lying face down in the snow. He said that a man wearing a black coat was running south down Arnold. The boy said that he turned his mother over and he thought that they had cut her nose off. The neighbor said that she was in her house when she heard the two gunshots. She came out and saw an old black Grand Prix driving south on Arnold. She couldn't see who was inside. She also saw a gray F-150 drive by first north and then south. She didn't see those occupants of the truck either. The neighbor was instructed to take the boy to her house and wait for detectives. Another neighbor said that he was also inside of his house when he also heard two gunshots. He came out and heard the boy yelling for help. He then called 911. The victim, identified as Tawana McGowan, was transported to Botsford Hospital by RTFD, unquote. The police officers then spoke with Kyle, and what he shared all those years ago with the police perfectly reflects what he's shared with us in the first video. Keep in mind, he didn't have access to these documents until very recently, so this just goes to show you that his memory of that day has remained perfectly clear and intact, despite how unbelievably traumatic that situation was for him. Now we're going to talk about what Raymond Macbeth, Kyle's father, shared with the detectives alongside his attorney. He explained that he first learned about the shooting on Monday around noon when his son Kyle called him while he was in Ohio. Macbeth said that he was at the Kalahari Resort in Sandusky, Ohio, attending a birthday party. He had driven there in his blue Chevy Malibu along with his girlfriend and her 3-year-old daughter. They stayed in room 3212 and checked in at about 4 p.m. a couple days before, I believe, but I'll have to fact check that with Kyle. Macbeth said that while he was at the resort, he saw several friends, all of which were spoken to by the investigators, and they corroborated his story. Macbeth then discussed his ongoing court case and custody battle with Tawana. He acknowledged that there had been a physical altercation between them during a court appearance in July, which then led him to being charged with assault, and he was sentenced in October to 1 year of probation with a delayed sentence. Raymond also explained that since that incident, he hadn't had any contact with his son. Before the assault, they shared joint custody, alternating weeks with their son, 1 week with Tawana and then 1 week with him. He concluded by stating that his attorney had advised him to cooperate and added that if the investigators had any further questions, that she would be happy to set up a meeting between them to discuss everything in more detail. Based on this interaction, it seems to me that everything that Macbeth shared with them was very straightforward and verified. I'm really curious to know what the investigators have that led them to believe Raymond Macbeth could be a person of interest, but of course, they wouldn't be releasing that information to us at this time. One of Tawana's best friends, named Lakina, came to speak with the police, and she knew a lot about her past relationship with Raymond, Kyle's father. She explained that Tawana and Raymond had been together for many years, and for a really long time, things were great between them. Their relationship fell apart after Raymond cheated, and following that breakup, Tawana began to date Kevin, who was just a coworker at the time. Lakina said that Tawana eventually allowed Kyle to stay at Kevin's place as their relationship was progressing, which made Raymond really angry, and that's what initiated this whole custody dispute. She added that the situation escalated and continued even after Tawana got engaged to Kevin. According to Lakina, there was a major incident when she was watching Kyle, and Raymond showed up and just took Kyle without notifying anybody. She said that around that time, a court judgment had been issued prohibiting Raymond from any contact with Tawana. Despite that order, Raymond was still trying to arrange visitation with his son, but he didn't know where Tawana was even living at the time. Lakina said that she knew that Kyle was talkative and had mentioned their address to his grandmother, Raymond's mom, which is how both Lakina and Raymond did find out that the family was living in Redford at the time. Lakina said that Tawana and Kevin were married around June of 2008. Kevin had 5 kids of his own, and obviously Tawana has Kyle, and added that there were frequent fights in their household, mainly because the children didn't always get along. I feel like this is pretty normal with a blended family, though. Lakina described Kevin as someone deeply involved and connected in the music scene, oftentimes traveling for several days at a time, and said that he had recently traveled to Chicago and Atlanta. Now, during their first year of marriage, Kevin reportedly flew to Las Vegas with another woman on Tawana's birthday. Although Tawana was deeply hurt by this, she ended up forgiving him and chose to stay in the marriage. According to Lakina, Tawana confided that Kevin said he didn't like Kyle, and he said this frequently. The couple went to therapy to work on their marriage, but the relationship remained really strained. Financially, Tawana and Kevin appeared stable because they owned property, and as far as Lakina knew, they weren't struggling at all for money. Tawana also confided in Lakina that she had been having an affair with a man that she referred to as Sparks. She told Lakina that she wasn't happy at all with the intimacy in her marriage, and when Kevin discovered the affair, it led to another heated argument between them. Tawana had told her friend that she no longer wanted to be married, but didn't plan to divorce Kevin until they had sold their house, which actually belonged to Tawana's mother. She said that Tawana was afraid that if she left, Kevin would stop paying the bills and the home could go into foreclosure, so she was just trying to prevent that. Lakina said that about a year earlier, Tawana and Kevin had gotten into a fight at a club where Tawana punched him in the eye. When they returned home, Kevin assaulted her, but no police report was ever filed on either side. Closer to the time of the murder, Tawana told Lakina that Kevin had choked her out after learning about her affair. On December 26, 2009, Tawana sent Lakina a text that said, quote, "Do you think it's time for me to leave? This man choked me up one too many times," end quote. My heart broke when I read that text. Lakina also said that Kyle sometimes spent Sunday nights at her house, but he hadn't stayed the night before the incident, and she was worried that Kevin might not have been home that night while Tawana was at work. Kyle told her that Kevin had left the house that morning around 6 a.m., so he did stay at the house with him that night. That is where Lakina's statement ends. 2 major takeaways here are that their marriage was falling apart, and Tawana made it really clear that she wanted to get out of it. Violence was increasing in the household, and there was a date and timestamp text to support that just a couple of weeks before she was murdered. My mind immediately wondered if maybe Kevin had seen that text, but let me know your thoughts on this in the comments down below. Now we're going to move on to the statements of a man named Drew. He explained that he was a friend of Tawana's and that the two of them had been seeing each other for a few months, and he said that they spoke every day and met for lunch frequently. I also want to say that this is not the place to cast any judgment on anyone, especially for someone that's not here to defend themselves. And family will be watching this video, so please be kind and respectful in the comments. I know that you here are all great, but some people on the internet can be cruel, so this is just a reminder for them. According to Drew, Kevin eventually found out about them seeing each other and became upset. Kevin sent a Facebook message to Drew's wife, so yes, he was also married, and Drew admitted that his relationship with Tawana was more than just friends and said that they would meet at local hotels for some alone time. He said he usually paid for the rooms using his credit cards or free hotel vouchers, and that Tawana never used her own card for these visits, but Drew didn't think Kevin knew about that part of their relationship. Drew said that Tawana opened up to him about her ex Raymond and told him about the physical fight that they had had in court. She also talked to Drew about the ongoing custody battle over her son Kyle. However, Drew said that Tawana never mentioned Raymond ever making any threats towards her. She was not afraid of him, even after the court dispute. However, he did remember Tawana telling him about an argument with Kevin on December 24th when Kevin choked her out. She told Drew that they fought all the time, but when asked if Tawana had ever said Kevin threatened her, Drew said no. Drew added that Tawana told him that Kevin traveled out of town for work all the time, and he believed that Kevin was supposed to be in Atlanta the weekend before the incident for an event. He described Kevin as being heavily involved in the music scene and having a lot of industry connections too. When asked if he knew where Tawana lived, Drew said that he didn't. You'll see this is a running theme today because there are many people that had no clue where Tawana was living at the time of her murder. Now we're going to get into Tawana's aunt's statements, and her name is Charlene. Charlene told the detectives that Kevin had sold marijuana in large quantities in the past when he was living in Detroit. She said that she knew this firsthand because apparently he had tried to sell her some in the past. According to Charlene, there was a man that would sometimes steal from Kevin's stash, though, as a way of getting back at him for the way that Kevin was treating him. This supports the idea that Kevin definitely had enemies in a variety of places in his life. Charlene also mentioned that Kevin was involved with the Freemasons, and she said that she believed that that could somehow be connected to Tawana's death. In her opinion, the killing looked like a hit. She believed that since Tawana had been planning to leave Kevin soon, she might have been killed to prevent certain secrets from coming out, although Charlene admitted that she didn't know what those secrets might be. Charlene said that she didn't even know that Tawana was living in Redford until she went to the hospital on Monday. She and others in the family still thought that Tawana was in Detroit, and Kyle was the one who told them that they had been living in Redford with Kevin and his daughter. According to Charlene, Tawana had planned to leave Kevin and was supposed to be moving into her great-grandmother's home in Detroit. Tawana was planning to move there with Kyle once she left Kevin, and this was corroborated by her great-grandma with the detectives. This plan was set right before she was killed. Charlene said that she wasn't sure whether Kevin was involved in anything else illegal, but she said that she did know that he ran a record label. Charlene and other family members told the police about an altercation that took place at the hospital on Monday between Kevin's family and Tawana's family. They said that Kevin immediately accused Raymond, Kyle's dad, of the shooting, and tensions escalated until a fight nearly broke out to the point where hospital security had to step in and separate the two families. Charlene and other family members said that Kevin didn't even appear visibly upset over Tawana's death and that he showed little to no emotion throughout the entire ordeal. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments because I personally find it strange that his wife had just been murdered, and this is how everyone around said that he was behaving, but I also know that everyone processes trauma differently. Now, a woman named Tanisha also came in to speak with the detectives, and she said that she'd been friends with Tawana for about 11 years. Tanisha didn't know that Tawana had recently moved to Redford either. They discussed both Raymond and Kevin. Tanisha said that she knew Raymond and actually described Kyle's father as a, quote, good person. She explained that Tawana and Raymond had planned to get married, but sadly the relationship ended after Raymond cheated on her. She said that Tawana could never fully forgive or trust him again, especially because they shared a son together. Tanisha also said that Tawana and Raymond used to take trips together all the time and always got along really well, and she said that she never saw them argue or ever display any kind of violent behavior towards each other. According to her, Raymond handled things in a very, quote, professional manner, end quote. She added that she hadn't seen or heard from Raymond since Tawana married Kevin, though. Tanisha said that she didn't know much about the ongoing custody battle between Tawana and Raymond, only that there had been a court case, and she was unaware of the physical assault that had occurred between them in the court the previous year. Tanisha also talked about Kevin and Tawana's marriage. She said that Kevin was a part owner of a Detroit nightclub, And Tanisha didn't attend their wedding because she didn't like Kevin. She mentioned that Kevin's home in Detroit had been firebombed around 2005, allegedly because he owed people money that was related to bad tax work that he had done. According to Tanisha, Kevin had done Charlene's taxes and only gave her $500, even though the IRS reported that she was supposed to get an $8,000 return. Kevin had allegedly filed a fraudulent tax return, which later caused Charlene to be audited. This is Tawana's aunt, the one that we just heard from a little while ago. Tanisha said that Kevin also owed money to people who had sold him rims for a van at one point that he owned. She added that Kevin had been shot last year by people who owed him money for his record label, and that this was money that he had allegedly borrowed but never repaid. She also said that Kevin once tried to rent out a house to a friend even though he didn't actually own it. According to Tanisha, no money was ever exchanged in that deal, though. Again, this is all alleged and coming from Tanisha's statement to the detectives. Tanisha said that she last saw Tawana at Northland Mall, where Tawana had been shopping. During that encounter, Tawana told her that she was planning to leave Kevin that Friday, so just a few days before she was murdered. Tanisha knew Kevin was upset about it, and she added that this wasn't the first time Tawana had tried to leave him. According to Tanisha, Tawana had tried to get out of that relationship, but Kevin told her if she ever left, he would kill her. You heard that right. Tanisha said she strongly believed that someone killed Tawana for Kevin. She mentioned that Kevin was a Mason and that he had many, many friends and cousins, suggesting that his network of connections might have played a role in this. I will also add here that the investigators were provided information to verify that Kevin is in fact a Mason, and that is detailed here in the police report. What Tanisha shared was incredibly concerning, and the threat of her being killed if she ever left him was haunting. Now we're going to move on to someone named Paula. Tawana's friend Paula said that she had known Tawana for about 20 years, and this is what she shared with the investigators. The two of them had lost touch around 2005, largely because Paula's husband actually didn't get along with Tawana, but they reconnected in 2008 after Tawana got married. Paula explained that after reconnecting, she and Tawana spoke on the phone all the time. She said that during some of those phone calls, Kevin would actually yell in the background, asking if Tawana was talking to her slur girlfriend. Paula said that he would yell and swear while Tawana was on the phone, making it really difficult for them to carry on a conversation privately. This is a clear control tactic. Paula said that Tawana had told her that she had moved to Redford, and Paula would occasionally visit her there or maybe meet her out and about for lunch. About 2 weeks before the murder, Tawana confided in Paula about Drew. Paula also said Tawana told her that she was planning to leave Kevin that week and move in with family, and she believed that Kevin already knew about her plan to leave. Paula remembered Tawana telling her that Kevin had choked her, and she herself had often seen bruises on Tawana's arms from their fights. As far as Paula knew, Tawana and Kevin didn't owe anyone money, and they weren't involved in any illegal activities, but she said that Kevin worked in tax preparations and that he allegedly made bad reports to the IRS, so we've got another person saying this. The last time Paula saw Tawana in person was on October 4th. They were supposed to meet at a club on October 17th for Paula's birthday party. Tawana had actually planned this party, but Paula said that because she wasn't getting along with Kevin, he didn't want to go. So she directly picked up the phone and called him to invite him. Kevin said, okay, sure. But later, Tawana called Paula back and said that she wouldn't be coming to the party now because Kevin had made dinner reservations elsewhere for just the two of them. Paula also mentioned that Tawana had told her about an incident around Christmas time when their dog froze to death outside after being intentionally left there. The dog was a Yorkie, and Tawana adored her dog. Paula said that when the couple lived on Grandmont, 3 dogs had disappeared from their house under unclear circumstances. Now, if you watch a lot of true crime, then you know that anything involving animals is always a major red flag. You'll hear about the dog again shortly, so just put a pin in that for a second. When asked about Raymond, Kyle's dad, Paula said that she knew who he was and that he had mistreated Tawana in the past. She described the toxicity in their relationship as mostly verbal, but he had been physically rough with her, pushing and kind of grabbing at her at times. Paula said that she never personally witnessed anything like that, though. Another friend named Doyola came in, and she said that she had been friends with Tawana for about 16 years. Doyola said that she had never met Kevin in person, but spoke with Tawana frequently on the phone and would occasionally visit her at her home in Redford, but only when Kevin wasn't there. We again have a running theme here in case you haven't noticed that many people were comfortable around her, but not Kevin, and I find that interesting. Doyola explained that she was actually the person who introduced Tawana to Drew. The two met through Doyola at a club and quickly became friends, which later developed into a romantic relationship. Doyola said that she knew that they were intimate, and when Kevin began to suspect Tawana was cheating on him, he called Doyola directly from Tawana's cell phone and yelled at her about their relationship. After that call, Doyola sent Kevin a Facebook message and he responded. She provided printed copies to the detectives of their conversation. Doyola also said that Tawana had told her around Christmas Kevin had killed her dog by leaving it outside in the cold, causing it to freeze to death on purpose. Major red flag here. Psychopathy is linked to killing animals, so just do with that information what you will. According to Doyola, Tawana had also told her that Kevin had cheated on her twice, once in Las Vegas and another time in Florida, but Tawana chose to forgive him. She said that those incidents happened 2 years before. She also described another altercation that Tawana had shared with her in a club where Kevin dragged Tawana outside and assaulted her. Tawana also told Doyola that Kevin was allegedly committing tax fraud, and Doyola said that she didn't believe Tawana was personally involved in any of it. She confirmed that Kevin was also involved in a rap group as well. Doyola said that Tawana told her she was planning to leave Kevin, but once again, she didn't want to file for divorce because of the property issues between the two of them. She also said that Raymond was not active in Kyle's life at the time due to the custody battle. Tawana had to go through Raymond's mother whenever she wanted him to see Kyle, and as far as Doyola was aware, Raymond didn't know where they were living in Redford at the time. And last but certainly not the least, a woman that worked with Tawana named Shatauda was interviewed by the investigators, and she stated that Tawana was very aware of her personal beliefs about the importance of marriage, and that because of that, she wasn't sure whether or not she would confide in her about the affairs going on in her marriage. She said that about 3 weeks before, Tawana told her that Kevin had left the dog outside overnight while Tawana was at work to purposefully freeze the dog to death. According to Tawana, Kevin didn't like the dog, and she really felt that he left the dog outside on purpose. Shatauda said that she also noticed that Tawana had recently stopped wearing her wedding ring, and she had also changed her name on Facebook back to her maiden name. These are both relatively clear signs that a relationship is on the rocks, if not done already. Shatauda added that Tawana had become frustrated with Kevin's children visiting the house on the weekends, so whenever they were there, Tawana would usually just stay in her bedroom to avoid interacting with everybody. Tawana had told Shatauda that the day after Christmas, she and Kevin got into a fight and a TV was broken. Tawana told her that she was ready to leave Kevin and she did not care at all about everything she'd lose in the process. Now, that wraps up what I'm going to be sharing from the police report. I didn't share every single detail because some of these updates Kyle is going to share, but there are definitely some key takeaways from this section that I read to you guys. Many people that provided statements are unrelated to one another, and yet they all had a similar story. Some had been confidants of Tawana's, and others had seen the actual bruises, the Facebook name change, and no ring. Most didn't even know where Tawana was living, and yet they all told a unified story that the marriage was over. Yes, there was a tense custody battle, and I can understand police looking into that, but I'm really curious to know what evidence exists to support Raymond Macbeth being the only official person of interest. The violence, threats, isolation, the dog being killed are all concerning behaviors, and Kevin had enemies in multiple places of his life, including the music industry, and he was a Freemason. I can understand that alibis may have been cleared as far as where everyone was at the time of the murder, but what about putting out a hit on someone? Listen, now, I'm not an investigator and I'm going to stay in my lane here. However, after knowing everything that we know now, I simply don't understand how Kevin McGowan was not listed as a person of interest as they've continued to work this investigation. All right, now let's go meet with Kyle for some updates. All right, I am so grateful that you're here with me today. I already gave you an introduction. Everybody already saw that in the first part of the video, but go ahead and just take a second and introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your story. And most importantly, we want to know what's going on now. Give us an update, based on what happened once you met with the investigator.
Right. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Kyle. I'm the son of Tawana McGowan, and I'm just here trying to get justice for my mom. As far as an update, I spoke to the detective actually no, probably 2 weeks ago. Um, Now, unfortunately, I feel like the detective isn't moving as diligently as I would like. I've been trying to message him. I sent him a message today, literally, because I wanted an update for this interview or this meeting, but he didn't get back to me, and that's fine for now. But we still don't have the case reopened at all. He told me that the case is it would be easy to get it reopened. He said he just has to talk to his sergeant and get it cleared and everything to reinvestigate, but I'm not really sure where we're at with that. Um, he said that he was going to do his own, like, small, very small investigation for it. I gave him a couple numbers that I would like him to call. He didn't call those people. It's just a lot of things. Like, for now, I just want you all to just continue to call them and make sure that they're aware that my mom has people out there that care about her, that care about her story. Because I don't think that they really understand that, people care and she's not alone. It's not just me anymore. So it's just really hard to make them as, concerned about it as I am. But we're still moving very slowly, but we're getting there.
Okay, so as far as communal support, then having all of us watching here today, calling Redford Police Department, I will put any contact information that you can provide me. I will put it in the box. If not, I can just put their general police department phone number. But phone calls, do you feel that that helped get you to where you are right now? Even getting that sit down initial meeting, I know was a huge, huge effort, it seemed, on their part, which is insane to me. But the fact that it took all that pressure just to get a phone call back to you, you said you worked so hard. For how long did you wait for a
Like
phone
a
call?
whole week. I was calling for a week. I had to go up to the station just to even get a detective to talk to me, and then
Right.
let alone to even get the actual case unredacted. It just feel like it's been such a process. So much money has been spent unnecessarily.
Mhm.
Um, it's just been a mess, honestly, so far. It's really more.
Right. And I actually shared too that when you initially went to get the documents, when you put in the FOIA request, that you
Mhm.
received it redacted. And
Yeah,
then
I
you
still
had
have
to
to
go,
pay for that.
right. So then
It
once you
was
sat down and met with him, then you had it unredacted, correct?
correct. Yes,
Okay.
he actually gave it to me. He sent it to me directly, which was really nice of him. And that's why I'm saying, like, it does seem like he's trying, but as you know, like, police, he makes it seem like he's really busy. Like, I'm sure he is, though. Let me not.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's really busy. He said he has court throughout the week and things like that. So this isn't a priority for him as much as I would like it to be, but he's trying at minimum. So I respect that.
Right, right. And it's hard, like you said, there's so many cases going on. But at the end of the day, we're talking about your mom. This is a human being that we need help on. This case has sat, and even the confusion for you, I can't imagine how difficult this has been that they've said it's closed and we can't give you any information, but it's not really closed because it's not solved. And then it
Right.
was redacted and unredacted. You have been just jerked around so much by everybody that it's not okay.
It's
Um,
exhausting, actually.
Right. That's why I said I commend you. You are so unbelievably strong. Everybody, you heard that loud and clear. We need to be calling. We need to get this ball rolling. And unfortunately, sometimes it takes a mob to get people to react. So, anyone that feels that they have it on their heart to go pick up the phone and call the police department, I highly encourage you to do so. Okay. So we've got some more questions here, largely that came in the comments of the first video. So the first one was they wanted to know who stayed with you the night before what happened. So the night of January 10th.
Okay, so I mean January 9th. I mean, no, January
Yes.
6th, right? Sorry.
Oh,
Okay,
yes. Night,
so
because that was the morning of the 11th.
yeah,
Okay.
you're right. Okay, yeah, I got it. So, um, so my mom's husband, and I don't remember exactly what kids were there. He had four different kids.
Mhm.
And I just can't for the life of me remember if any of them were there, one of them were there. I couldn't tell you, but I'm pretty sure he was there. I just remember waking up and no one was there.
Right.
So I can't, the night before is really a blur for me. I can't remember much about that night, honestly. Because in my head during that time, should have been a normal night. The next day was supposed to be a normal day. I was supposed to go to school. I did my regular routine. It was nothing for me. Like, it should have been a normal night.
Right.
So I can't really remember much about that.
Okay, that's okay. Someone had asked in the police report, it did say that you'd mentioned that he left the house around 6 a.m. to bring, I think, one of his kids to school. So I'm assuming he was there, but due to the nature of the relationship, I'm assuming you were probably hanging out in your room, doing your thing. Like you said, you've got your routine going.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, that answers that question. So thank you for that. I think a lot of people were concerned with, was he home alone? What happened that night?
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't home alone that night. I was just home alone that morning.
Right, right. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Another question was, did the police check into Kevin's personal bank accounts after the insurance payout? Do you know?
As far as I know, no, they didn't.
Okay.
Because I don't think the police can even tell me how much the insurance payout was. I don't even know how much it was,
Wow.
information. So I'm nearly certain they didn't, which would, I don't know. I don't know why they wouldn't have, but I didn't see it in the case. So
Okay.
I didn't see that anywhere. I talked to the detective about it as well. He didn't have any information. So
Mm.
I don't think we know that one.
Okay, that's tough. Okay. Because, of course, everyone's thinking now if it were a hit of some type, then maybe that money would have been taken out of the account, of course, in some form or fashion, especially after an insurance payout, depending on what that looked like. So that was another theme throughout the comments. And I said, I'm not quite sure. Let me ask Kyle, and, we'll get that answered.
Well, I
But
will say that back then there was, in my opinion, a lack of investigation on Kevin. Mostly because I felt like they were trying to turn the narrative from him onto my mom's brother and my dad. So
mm,
they're pretty much returning the blame everywhere but that way where it needed to be. So the detectives, they didn't really do much investigation on him, especially, I know for a fact, especially like months down the line, they didn't do much investigation, like and much follow-up or anything, because the first person they should have followed up with was me, and I never got anything. No one ever talked to me, or they should at least talk to my mom's best friend as a follow-up. um but they didn't. They talked to her the day that it happened, and I feel like if you talk to anyone that day, it's going to be a lot for them, and they're going to be missing information. And it's because they're, for me, as my mom, it was her best friend that just passed away. That you should have at least waited a day to speak to her and interrogate her. And then you should have followed up with her as well to get any information that she could have thought of or anything. And I don't think they followed up with anyone other than the two main suspects. So.
mm. Well, it's interesting that you say that too, because I mean, it truly is proven from a psychological perspective that you are unable to think clearly in traumatic situations. So, to your point, I completely agree. Having that follow up subsequent meeting, especially let's say I'm the best friend and I go and I meet with the investigators, and maybe something jogs my memory a little later on, then I myself would pick up the phone and call them. And from what they're supposed to do, they should be willing to take that call and have a subsequent interview. Now, I will say that there was a lot of information. I'm sure you read through that police report heavily, but it seems that there was a lot of concerning information, which we're definitely going to get into regarding Kevin McGowan, your stepdad. So we'll definitely be getting into that. Now, after digging into the police report, the first thing was, I know it's a silly question, but I just want to ask, what kind of vehicle did Kevin McGowan drive?
um
Or even like color or anything.
if I can remember, I think he drove like a silver car. I can tell you right now that car wasn't at at the crime scene,
Okay.
but I'm sure it was a silver car. I think it was like a silver Ram, like a Ram Magna or something like that. I don't know, a silver car.
Okay. Okay. I was just curious. Of course, that would have stood out to you if you thought he had left and was still on the scene. So I just wanted to ask because it was bothering me. And again, a lot of people were asking, well, what kind of car does stepdad drive? And I was like, I'm pretty sure Kyle would recognize it, but let me just ask, do my due diligence. But
Mhm.
another question that I had was whether or not you received the hospital records or the autopsy report. Do you have
No,
access to them? No.
no, they didn't send me any of that.
Okay.
So he told me that the case is like there's more information in the case, like the autopsy report, like the actual full file. He
Mhm.
just didn't give me that. So I just have, just like the little short version of it. I don't know what those are called, like the police logs or anything. I don't know what those are, but in my opinion, it needed to be a little bit more detailed. But
Mhm.
we don't have the full case yet. We don't have the autopsy reports, the medical reports. We don't have any of that.
Right. I mean, in releasing what he did release, I find it very interesting that he gave you essentially a compilation of all the initial statements from everybody and a couple of follow-up statements as well. But I paired them all together and kind of read through them. So everyone already knows what I'm talking about. But I do find it very interesting that they didn't give you anything else to support what anyone said, right? So I can understand if they're going to protect certain things, but I mean, there is all kinds of personal information all throughout that report. It's very odd to me that they wouldn't provide the actual copy to you of the autopsy report for us to go through. So in the report, it actually mentions that you would spend time at your paternal grandmother's home, so your dad's mom. And it said, quote, Macbeth made Kyle show Macbeth where they lived and allegedly made Kyle lay in the back seat while this occurred. Do you remember this happening is the first part? And are they referring to your dad or are they referring to your grandma when they're writing that? They didn't specify by first name who they were talking about.
Right. So I read that too. I don't recall that ever happening. I don't even recall. Here's the thing. I don't recall even saying that to the police. I
Wow.
promise you don't. And then we have to think about this logically. The only time that I talked to the police was at the crime scene after it happened. That doesn't make any sense for me to have said that or for them to have asked me that question or anything involving that when I was getting, I guess, questioned at the crime scene. So, and mind you, they don't have any formal interrogation with me. So I just found that so odd that that was in the case when I know for a fact that never happened.
Wow.
And I know for a fact it never happened because my grandma Macbeth, my mom, that was my dad's mom.
Mm-hmm.
She was on my mom's side. She liked my mom.
Hmm.
And she knew that my dad and my mom was going through a custody battle at the time. So I know she wouldn't have done that. But even then, I was so young at the time, and we had just moved to the house. I didn't even know the address. I didn't
Hmm.
know where it was at. That makes literally no sense to me that that was in there, and that actually bugged me. And I called my I would not that grandmother. That grandmother's deceased now,
Oh,
but I
that's
called my
sad.
other grandma, and I was asking her. I was like, I don't know why they would put that in there because I just genuinely don't remember that happening. And I
Mm.
don't remember her saying that. That was really weird to me. So I'm glad you brought that up. But that never happened. I can tell you that right now. That never happened. We literally had just moved into that house probably a month before, or maybe 2 months. Like we were not there for that long. I didn't even know the address. I literally didn't. I didn't know where it was at or anything. I was a 10-year-old kid. Like I didn't know any of that. So no.
Now, it does mention that there were two separate women that Kevin had extramarital affairs with. Do you happen to know, just maybe even from your family, were they ever identified? Were these women ever identified? Were they ever looked into
No.
anything?
Mm-mm.
Wow. Okay.
Nope.
Okay. Now, I also know that they mentioned Drew
Oh, I'm
was,
sorry. I lied.
oh,
There
okay,
was you said postmarital, right? So like
extramarital. So while they were married, that he was cheating with two women. So one in
yeah.
Florida and one in Atlanta, I believe.
Yeah, I remember. So no, I don't know about those. I didn't know about his post marital stuff.
Okay.
I
What
don't know
was,
anything about that. I know he's married now, so I don't know anything about what was going on back then about that.
oh, okay. And you were so little, so I just wasn't
Yeah.
sure if maybe you'd heard anything from family, but it did say in the police report that there were two other women that
Mhm.
he'd had affairs with. This was mentioned by everybody in the police report that this came from your mom. And another thing that got mentioned, of course, was Drew. And Drew's alibi was fully checked out. He appears to have had nothing to do with it. They also mentioned someone named Sparks. Do you happen to know if Sparks was a nickname for Drew? That's kind of the way it seems in the report.
Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't figure that out either, but I think
Okay,
it
I
is.
couldn't. Yeah, I tried. Couple more questions. This next
Okay.
one was on one of the pages of the report. Did you see that they said at 1:45 that there were no shell casings found on scene, and
Mhm.
yet there was a report done at 8:30 that said they did have them? Did you find that strange as well?
Yeah, I found that strange. It was a couple things that I found strange about that. Like, I know that they said that the footprints had got like messed up because of the first responders and everything. Um, but this is a side note. I'm sorry. I'm not about to ask the question right now. I'm gonna answer it in 1 second.
Yeah, go for it.
The weirdest thing I found was that they said that they found the phone on the dashboard. Do you remember that?
I don't remember the phone. I remember the keys. They said they were in your mom's left hand, but I don't remember the location of the phone.
Yeah, they said that the phone was on the dashboard, and I just found that so weird because, first of all, that's such an unnatural place for a phone to be, but also because when my mom's best friend, when she got to the police station, they pulled out my mom's phone, and she told them that that was not her phone, and she pulled up the messages in her actual phone of the message that she literally was just sending my mom yesterday, the day before, and then she compared it with the phone that they had, and it was not the phone. It was a new phone. So that was really weird. I think the bullet shell situation was weird. Um, but now I will say the part that they do not have in the report that I think is very important is how my mom's body was positioned. Because how they have it in the report is not how it actually was, because I guess technically I tampered with the crime scene.
Mm.
Because when I came out, and I seen her laying there and everything, I flipped her body over.
Mm.
But when I came out there, um, I don't want to say like this as facts, but I just feel like they moved her body and like positioned her body because the way that she was positioned was just so unnatural to me because she got shot in the face, but she was laying face down in the snow with her arms like straight down, like this. And she was just laying straight down in the snow.
Mm.
So, and that's just so weird to me. I don't see how anybody could land like that if they had just got shot in the face.
Right.
So that was just really weird. It was just a lot of weird things about what they said about the crime scene. Actually, that was just all weird. But I don't know what
Agreed.
the bullet shows. I asked them that they have them still. Like, what's going on with that? Do you have the ballistics? But I don't know. I guess he told me he can find it, whatever that means.
Hmm.
I
You
hope he
either
can.
have them or you don't.
Right. He said that they're not at the police station, but he said that he can find it. So
I
I hope.
have heard that a lot of evidence is stored off-site from the police station, depending on the size of the department. However, I would think and I would hope that he would know if they have them in evidence or not. But I did find that very interesting. The only rational thought that I had is perhaps due to the timing that maybe this initial report that was done at 8:30, they found them and collected them, and then that 1:45 p.m. report, there were no casings that's on the scene anymore. But even then, that's still a huge discrepancy in the report.
Definitely. In my opinion, I feel like that gave a huge time gap to swap out the bullets or do anything with the evidence. I'm just saying, I don't know. But that definitely should have been documented. Look, I don't know what happened. I don't know.
I
I
mean,
can tell you about that. So
right. It's one of those situations where you catch that right off the bat and go, did the investigator even read that and notice it? Because that's a
right.
pretty major discrepancy, I would think. Because if, as a nurse, I'm going, okay, if I would have seen something odd that didn't add up, I would have documented it, right? Maybe they could have even mentioned in their report and said, possibly collected this morning or anything to cover themselves. But there was nothing mentioned about that whatsoever. So I found that very interesting. And I was hoping that you caught that as well.
Yes, I definitely did. Hmm.
I figured you're an investigator right now. You're over there.
Really,
We're both going through this.
seriously, I really am.
You are not alone, my friend. You have a bunch of people rallying around you. It seems that there were many separate witness accounts as to what was going on in the nature between your mom, Tawana, and Kevin. I could not believe when I saw the text message. I believe it's to Lakina, right? Lakina?
That's my godmom. That's her best friend that I was talking about.
That text message where she said, he's choked me up one too many times, my jaw dropped. That is date and time stamped. I believe it was December 26th off
Mhm.
top of my head. I could not believe that. I
A
mean,
month before, a month before.
wow.
Yeah. And I actually the last time that I talked to the detective, that was one of the main things I brought up to him because the last time I talked to him was the meeting after he gave me the full unredacted case. And I explicitly wanted to explain to him that I feel like something had to have went wrong in the case, in the investigation, for them not to thoroughly investigate Kevin after there were so many instances of people talking about domestic violence. And in my opinion, I just feel like there were so many moving objects with this case. Maybe they looked over. Well, look, I don't know how that's possible to look over that, but I don't know. Like, I don't understand how you can try to point the blame towards my dad so heavily when he was literally abusing my mom, physically,
Literally.
emotionally, and everything in between, fiscally. So it's just that was just really strange to me that they didn't see Kevin as like the main suspect, and he literally was abusing her up until the day she died. Like that is just so crazy to me. I can't believe that one. Yeah.
Agreed. Agreed. I couldn't believe that. And also, Tanisha, I saw Tanisha's statement where she said that he literally threatened to kill her if she ever left. And she doubled down and said that Kevin found out that week that she was planning to leave and that you guys were moving into her great grandma's, I guess
Right now.
your great great grandma, right?
I can tell you right now, my mom was going to leave that Friday. She died that Monday. Just that fast. She was going to leave literally on Friday. He didn't
Wow.
even give her a chance. Didn't even give
Wow.
her a chance.
And the fact that, to your point, you'd mentioned this earlier as well, the fact that he specifically ran to point the finger at your dad. I mean, it was even in the report where the families, not even your dad's family versus your mom's family, it was Kevin's family versus your mom's family fighting, and that
Yes.
he wasn't emotional. I couldn't believe
It
reading
was,
all of this in the report.
Kevin. His sister, Kimberly Dawson, that's his sister. In the report, it literally like the one of the first things she said was Raymond Macbeth, my dad. First of all, she would have never even met my dad at a singular time. So I just found that so weird that you come to the crime scene or wherever she was at, I don't know. And the first thing you say is to blame my dad. That just seems so weird to me. Like, I don't know, it just seems so corroborated to me.
Hmm.
Seems like they definitely planned this all out.
I
I don't know.
agree. Well, and something I wanted to mention as well, there's actually a detective that I watch on YouTube, and
Mm,
he talks all the time about how one of the worst mistakes a police officer can make is making a decision of who was involved before actually investigating it, because officers will get an idea of something and then they'll start to dig into that. And then they'll look for evidence to support their theory, as opposed to gathering all the unbiased evidence across the board and then doing interviews, repeat interviews, and then laser focusing in on exactly where they need to be going. So in this scenario, it really truly does seem that they had their minds made up as they were working through this. And an alibi of who was where, what, when, and why, none of that matters when it could have been a hit. Of course, everyone's going to have a story that's corroborated by time cards, by, I mean, even your dad being at a hotel in a different state, right? Everyone can be in different places. That doesn't mean they had no hand whatsoever in her murder. So
exactly.
it's just crazy to me.
Yeah.
But another talking point is, you kind of already mentioned it, but Kevin showing extremely controlling, violent behaviors and leaving the dog outside. I want to unpack that a little bit.
I vividly remember that night. So, oh my God, that was just like a crazy situation. So my mom had a little Yorkie, and he was supposed to, my mom was at work, like, she worked at night.
Mhm.
He let the dog out, and he was just like one of those weird people that will leave a dog outside when it's the middle of December and it's snow outside. I don't know, like, and the dog was just like on a leash outside in the middle of the snow. A little Yorkie. The dog wasn't no more than 6 pounds.
Yeah,
A little,
tiny.
a tiny, tiny dog. And that broke me. I literally stayed home from school the next day. I was crying, and he
Mhm.
literally let that dog die. And I don't. Now at the time, I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know why that happened, but it definitely broke me. And I do remember that day very vividly. That dog died for sure.
Wow. Well, I'm sure that you're aware of this, but I mentioned this in the video. I even said, do with this information what you will, but psychopathy is highly, highly linked to abuse or violence towards animals. And one of the stories with, I think it was Paula, I believe, that your
Mhm.
mom had planned her birthday party, and then Kevin said, "Oh yeah, okay, I'll go," and then at last minute planned a date just for him and your mom to isolate her and keep her away from people. And something that also really struck me was that so many of these people didn't even really know each other. Some of these stories were corroborated by her coworkers who didn't know anyone in her personal life, to all telling this same unanimous story. Everybody.
Mhm.
It's crazy. I really couldn't believe it. But the dog story, everyone telling that, oh my gosh, Kyle.
And don't get me wrong, I know Kevin wasn't a good person and everything, but I'm gonna say one thing that really kind of gagged me in that report. When they said that he didn't like me, I could not believe that. I said, okay, now I
Oh.
knew he didn't like me, but the fact that he actually like said that gagged me. I could not believe that. That really shocked me. I was like, okay, well, I guess I didn't like him either, but I was a child. Like, you have to understand, like, my mom got with him when I was younger than 10 years old.
Mhm.
I was a literal child. Like, that was just so weird to me and just like, okay, I don't know where you
Yeah.
got that one.
I automatically question someone's character if you're weird towards children or animals. So I 100% see where you're coming from on that, because it's one thing if, you're butting heads, maybe your parenting style is a little different from a child, or maybe some growing pains because of, the custody battle with your dad, whatever the case was. But to
Right.
blatantly to a police officer say, "I don't like my stepson." What?
Like, okay.
Yeah, there's
Like,
something
okay.
wrong here. The math
And he
ain't math.
definitely showed it after my mom died. I'll tell you that much. He definitely showed it. He still does. So,
Wow. Wow. Do you have any contact with, obviously Kevin, I assume no, but what about his family? Do you have a contact with any of them?
well, I wouldn't say contacts. We're a little estranged at this point, but I've spoken with them recently, actually, his children. Just because at the end of the day, they didn't have anything at all to do with this. So it really wasn't my goal to like start any like drama or beef with them, but it kind of led to that point because I mean, obviously, I'm saying that your dad killed my mom.
Right.
So it kind of just got out of hand and it wasn't a productive conversation. Let's just say that. But his children definitely believe his side. Let's just say that they believe that my dad did it. Um those are not, let me just say that none of them are good people at all. At
Mm.
all. Especially his children. Because they they know what he was doing to my mom and they know what he's doing now to his current wife.
Mm.
So it's just really crazy to me that they still support that man. But they do. They do. But other than that, I haven't spoken to anyone.
Wow. Well, you have a big heart for being able to see past their dad's transgressions, allegedly, and be able to foster somewhat of a connection with them. Because even if it were for a relatively short period, given your lifespan now, they were still family at one point. So
We
I
all grew up together.
I commend you for that. I really do. You're a bigger person than I think I would be. Honestly,
I'm trying. I really am. I really am.
you're a sweetheart. Okay. Now, I did see that Kevin McGowan passed a lie detector test, but
Mhm.
do you know if your dad was ever given one? I know that he was represented by an attorney, and sometimes they're really good about saying, nope, we're not doing that, regardless, no matter what the situation is. So, do you know if one was ever offered or what happened with that?
No, I'm not sure. I don't know. I couldn't tell you, but I definitely could ask him. But
Okay.
as far as I know, nope.
One question that someone did have is, do you have any stories that your mom shared with you about her best friend Aaliyah? Everybody wants to know. Do you have any cute stories or any sweet memories
Um,
from your mom with her?
yeah, my mom, she really, I think that, Aaliyah's death like really stuck with her as well. So she didn't speak about her a lot, especially with me because I was so young once again.
Right,
But
you're so
I
little.
do remember my mom telling me about how she was in one of her music videos, and my grandma got so mad at her because she snuck out to go to the music video, and she just had like such a good time. I vividly remember her telling me about that. But most of the stories now they come from my grandma, my mom's mom.
Mm.
was friends with Aaliyah's mom, and you know, when children are friends, you know, everybody's close.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I just hear stories from her now. I wish
Cute.
I heard more stories. Like maybe if I was a little bit older, when my mom was alive, she would have told me a lot more. But because at the time, you know, I really did, 10 years old girl. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't even think I knew who Aaliyah was. Honestly,
Right, right.
she came
Now
out
you
with me
know.
from.
Now you know.
Now I know. Now I know. Now I jam. I listen to the music. But back then, you know, I obviously she would play her music, but I'm 10 years old, girl. I didn't know nothing. So
Well, you're like, it's just a person that I can hear like on the radio. I don't even know who that is. No
right.
significance. And then you grow up and you're like, that Aaliyah? Her?
Like my mom literally went to school and was friends with her. Like, what? And then now it's like it's so crazy because like there's so many like Aaliyah pages that post pictures and then like they will post pictures of my mom and I'm like, oh my God, like that's just
Mm,
so hard for me to fathom. My mom was pretty much like famous too. So
I love it. Yes, she is.
famous by association. So yeah,
I have no doubt in my mind that they're partying it up together right now.
I know for a fact they are.
That's so cute. I love that. Is there anything else that you want to share?
Um, let me think. No, I think we really covered everything. I will say too, I cannot remember if we covered this in the first one,
Mm.
but I just wanted to be known that, you know, I still feel that my mom unfortunately passed away due to collateral damage because of what happened with her brother and her husband. And I know that this story has a lot of moving objects because he was abusing her and so many other things. But I think at the heart of it, I think because Kevin's uncle or cousin, whatever he was to him, had got killed, I really deep down in my heart think that my mom was collateral damage from that because they couldn't get to her brother and she wouldn't give him up. So, and I know that can seem like a movie, it seems like it seems crazy, I know. But after talking to my grandma and my godmom and everybody really, that's what we came up with. Like we literally all talked about it, and even my uncle, unfortunately he's in jail right now. But I even talked to him, and I don't think that Kevin just randomly woke up and said that he's going to kill my mom. I think that it was planned. I think that it was orchestrated, and unfortunately, it was well thought out. But um, I do think my mom was collateral damage to what happened with that.
I mean, I can definitely see that being the case. Not to mention something else that I mentioned in the video was that Kevin had a lot of enemies. Everyone that knew your mom had a different enemy to mention, whether that was in regards to tax fraud or his rap group that he was either a part of or that he owned. Couldn't tell if it was that he owned a recording studio or if he was a part of that group. But
I think both.
regardless, both. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I'm not sure though.
Okay. All I know is he had bad blood everywhere. And then a known threat that she shared with someone and known violence. And even if, we can piece together exactly how those pieces fell into place, regardless, I think that it's really, really clear that the police really dropped the ball in only looking into really one person. It seems that they said, okay, alibi checks out, great. So, okay, what about once again putting a hit out on somebody? There
Yeah,
needs to be so much more digging involved. And I can understand, and I said this already, but I can understand them wanting to look into your dad, especially given the custody battle and everything. That makes sense. They have to check everybody out. However, to list him as the only person of interest and not Kevin as well until they could corroborate everything, it doesn't make any sense to me.
anything. I know.
I
Seriously.
can't believe it. I really can't. Well, okay, that concludes the questioning portion. Where can we find you? Shout yourself out. I already repped the t-shirt. I told them where to find it. So,
Yes. For now, like my main social media platforms are like Twitter and TikTok. You can find me at Kyle's Kiki, KYLE SKIKI. And then I also in my bio I have a GoFundMe. I'm trying to raise funds for an attorney and a private investigator, anything honestly to help this case. The funds are all going towards that. I haven't even withdrawn any funds. So right now I'm just using my funds that I have. I'm using my own money until I can raise enough to get an attorney. Because I just feel like I'm gonna need it the way this is heading, unfortunately. But we're working towards it. We're getting there. And I'm just going to keep fighting for my mom. Honestly, any support helps. Like, share, comment, just get her name out there, get the word out there. And please just let Redford Police Department know that, we care about my mom and we want to get her justice. That's all. I don't think that this is a bad thing to do. This isn't a bad, because I feel like a lot of people like look at talking about things like this online as a bad thing. I don't know why. But I don't think it's a bad thing to spread the word and talk about cases at all.
No,
So,
because we've seen this happen so many times in the true crime space, right? Where the police aren't responding quickly or appropriately enough to a case. And so community has to gather. And unfortunately, if that means a lot of phone calls, a lot of posts, things like that to get their attention, it does put pressure on the police department to act. It shouldn't be that way. But we do know that with numbers comes action. So
right.
I think that that's a great idea. I added your GoFundMe into the description box in the first video, and I'll share it again in this video.
Thank you.
And I think that wraps up everything. So thank you for meeting
Thank
with me today.
you so much for everything. Seriously, I appreciate you.
I know that many of you wanted to know more about Kyle's stepdad, Kevin, from the initial video, so I hope that answered some of your questions. I am so proud of Kyle for fighting as hard as he is for his mom, and I have no doubt that she's proud of who he has become. The fight is still ongoing for justice for Tawana, but we're finally on a better path, and Kyle knows that we are all here, at least on my channel, we are all here for him. Also, in case you didn't notice, I'm wearing a t-shirt that he designed, and the quality and design of this is beautiful. He had no idea that I ordered this, so this was actually a surprise to him when we recorded, and I will link his shop in the description box if you want to check it out. I appreciate each and every one of you from the bottom of my heart for being here, and I mean it when I say that the kindness you guys show me truly means the world to me. Also, I may be taking next weekend off, but I'll let you guys know if I choose to do that. People on here can be wild, but thank you for being here and for always being so kind-hearted. Don't forget to drop me a boot butterfly in the chat, aka our secret handshake, and please do some extra self-care this week. Nurse's orders. I'll see you next weekend. Bye.